All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Zach and Sully. This is our weekly podcast. As you had known from last episode, we had gone away for a little bit, but we're trying to make it up to you now. So we're doing another episode the day after for, our unusual Sunday show that we have. I don't think we've ever done a Sunday one before. So, yep, we're back here on Monday. We're going to be doing all March Madness once again. I mean, there's nothing really to talk about. I mean, March sucks. Horrible month besides St. Patty's Day. Nothing really else going on. So this is what we're talking about. I mean, we got some baseball heating up, but that's not as nearly as fun as March Madness tournament is. You got anything to say?
I completely disagree. I think March is the best sports month in the entire calendar.
Bull crap. Why? Dude, there's no way. No way.
Spring training really kicks off, and you're getting into the nitty-gritty right before pro baseball starts. You have college baseball kicking off, if you're a fan of that. I know I usually don't follow till the College World Series, but it's out there still. NBA and NHL playoffs, or right before the playoffs, it's heating up. This is when teams either die or thrive. Then, oh, by the way, tournament, NCAA basketball, and then at the very end of the month, NCAA hockey.
You know why I don't care about spring training? Because Pablo Sandoval had 2 RBIs in the game yesterday against the St. Louis Cardinals, and that is him trying to justify why he should be playing third base, which I disagree. He shouldn't, but it just goes to show that I don't give a crap about spring training, and I think it's a complete joke. I mean, yeah, it gets us fired up for the baseball season, but there's nothing going on in March. I mean, it's springtime. And did you guys get snow today in the Northeast?
Yeah, it melted by like 10 a.m., so we're good. We're in the clear.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I guess there's beg to differ for our favorite months of the year. I'll tell you one thing. March is definitely on the end for me. But the one great thing about March, I'll tell you this, is March Madness, and we're going to be getting into the Sweet 16 preview. So me and Sully did our show during some of the games yesterday. So like during VCU and Oklahoma, and then Mid-Tennessee and also Syracuse, those games were going on. Unfortunately, our show ended before 2 of the probably craziest games of the entire tournament, besides the buzzer beater with NIU, who also, what we'll get to in a second, was involved in another crazy game last night. So we're going to talk about those 2 games briefly, and then we're going to give a complete quick like a rapid-fire preview of the Sweet 16 matchups coming into this weekend. So, yeah, I don't even know where to start. I talked last night with Sully about how I thought Texas A&M was going to come out and play a lot better than most people thought. I felt that they were one of the stronger teams in the Big 12 this year. They played very well against teams like Kentucky. They played I'm sorry. A&M's on the SEC. What am I thinking? So I just got my brain in a knot right there. So they played Kentucky really well. They played some other SEC schools really well. I thought they were a big physical squad. They got pretty good point guards. So I thought that Northern Iowa was going to have some trouble, considering they won on the lucky shot against Texas a couple nights before. If it had not been for that Wisconsin Xavier game, bringing all the distraction away from so many fans, because like that game was intense too, a lot of America would have witnessed one of the greatest choke jobs in the history of the tournament that Northern Iowa had last night. You agree or disagree?
I didn't watch it live, but I completely agree. I think that people would have been amazed that Northern Iowa was even in with. They had a 9-point lead at one point. I think a lot of America would have been very surprised about that. And they would have been even more mind-blown to watch it disintegrate in front of everybody's eyes. It was sad. It was disappointing. It was a letdown.
And like me and my roommate Brian, we were watching the game. We were just flipping through the channels, and like that game was like kind of out of reach. It was like a minute left, and NIU was up by like 14 points. So I'm like, all right, well, there's another game in the book. So we went back to the Xavier Wisconsin game, and that game was pretty back and forth. And I look up in the top corner and I see that. I'm like, oh, wow, like this game's getting close again. And I'm like, that's weird. They're only down by 5 now. So we click back on the channel and we put the game back on. And I know you saw the highlights. And when we were watching, we were in absolute disbelief about how poorly coached that team was during the final like end points of the game. I don't know what the hell those players were thinking on those bounce passes. What was like A&M didn't even try to foul these guys. It was almost like they knew that Northern Iowa had never been in a spot like this before. But even when I played town league basketball, we were always taught how to like inbound the ball correctly and get the ball down the court. I think it was like a mindset they had that they were waiting to get fouled by A&M, and then they panicked because they're holding on the ball in the corner for so long, and then all of a sudden he doesn't know what to do with it. He turns around, he does this thing where he bounces the ball on the ground, thinking it's going to chew more time off the clock, but then A&M just completely just grabs the ball out of midair and just goes in for an easy layup.
It seemed like a very poor decision. It seemed like a very, very big rookie move, something that maybe you can really get away with when you're the best player on the court in high school basketball, do you know what I mean, or prep school basketball, which a lot of these players for you and I were. But it's just something that you shouldn't be resorting to in a game like this. And I know a lot of times they're trying to toss it out of bounds from Texas A&M player. I get that, but just fall out of bounds, man. The amount of pressure they're putting on you on the inbound, guess what? Do the same to them. Don't let them inbound the ball successfully. And if they do, guess what? They beat you legitimately. But there's, you know, especially after the first time that bounce off the player didn't work. It didn't work the first time. Don't try it again. Don't try it again.
Unbelievable how smart of like ball playing that was by A&M. I mean, they didn't foul him. They just kind of trapped him in the corner and then just waited for him to make a mistake. And I understand, like, this is like basketball. People make like people's minds aren't always clear when you're in a pressure situation like that. You're thinking about a billion things on the court. You're thinking of, oh, who am I going to pass this to? Am I going to get fouled? Oh, my God, we just blew a 13-point lead in a minute. I'm freaking out. Like, this is the tournament. This may be my last game. There's all kinds of things going through your head, and I get that. And it was evident 23 years ago when Chris Webber called the timeout in the national championship game. You know, players make mistakes sometimes. And I just see it as like a thing that A&M picked up on really well in this game, that they figured that Northern Iowa was in this situation where they were panicking and they weren't going to follow them because they were going to wait for them to make a mistake. And to me, that's smart coaching and smart ball play. But got to give credit to A&M. I mean, they're moving on, and just a devastating loss for NIU. I mean, did you watch that post-game conference with the kids? Man, they were crying. They were heartbroken. It was brutal to watch those kids at the end of the game. And like I said earlier, like if it had not been for that Wisconsin Xavier game being on at that moment, a lot of America would have witnessed probably one of the top 5 greatest collapses in the history of college basketball, like tournament play. I mean, 14 points in 46 seconds. It was something like a 12-0 run in like 44 seconds or something crazy like that. It was somewhere in that range, but still.
I think it was 9. I think it was 9 points in 46 seconds.
Was it 9? It seemed like a lot more. I mean, A&M looked like they scored.
And I think they were down 12 with a minute and a half. I think that's the number. I agree. I know you and I collapsed. I talked about it with you before we started the show. I think that's a big product of not ever being in that moment. You and I only played so many big games, and they're always the underdog. They always are. They beat North Carolina during the regular season. They were the underdog for that one. I think they just choked, but let's not forget that A&M defense was impossible to break. Impossible. I think at best, we're sitting here. We're not saying how you and I could have won if they had made a better shot, if they had passed, if they had tried to work the ball down low. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you and I would have won if they had just fallen out of bounds and turned the ball over like that. That's how good of defense A&M played. It left them with such a bad alternative that's why they pulled that play. So let's not forget, yes, it was a huge collapse by you and I to allow that to happen. But let's give A&M its credit where it's due.
Absolutely, and I said that all credit due. I mean, the coaching and the play calling and the players' like awareness towards the end of the game was fantastic for them, and that's why they were able to pull it out. So that was the other crazy game, and we'll touch on it briefly. Oregon St. Joe's was close for a little bit, and then Oregon pulled away towards the end, but that game was not nearly as interesting as the Wisconsin Xavier game was last night. Back and forth all night. So me and you are stoolies. I don't know. I don't know how much you read of it. I read the Stool every single day. I'm a big fan. And Big Cat, one of my favorite bloggers. I mean, fun to read his tweets during the Wisconsin games. He always says some funny stuff. Now I don't know a lot about this Bronson Cohen kid. But he tweeted something during the game that I thought was interesting, or not like interesting. It was funny, but I don't know what kind of shooter he is, or if he's that kind of guy on the team. But he tweeted something along the lines like, "Oh, Bronson, no, what are you doing, Bronson? What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden it was like, "Yes!" Like a long stretch. Like he like quickly changed his mind after he like questioned why he was taking a shot at the 3-point range. This kid tied the game, and then later on hit the game-winning corner shot for Wisconsin. I mean, my heart goes out to Xavier and especially Bill Murray. I mean, that was just brutal. I mean,
did you see the crying Jordan face with crying Jordan.
Absolutely, man. It's there every game. It's
But
that. I don't think that's ever going to go away. I really don't.
Space Jam one though? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one with his head on Michael Jordan's or whatever, and then it was.
No, it's
There was a. I saw a Space Jam Photoshop one with Bill Murray in it.
Yeah, it's a scene from I'm trying to pull it up. It's a scene from Space Jam with them around Bugs Bunny, and it's the Bill Murray photoshopped head frowny face with the Xavier hat on, photoshopped onto his normal head, and Michael Jordan's crying face.
Yeah, so that game was interesting because I remember watching it and I remember saying to myself, like, I thought Xavier was the better team. Wisconsin lost a lot of talent from last year, but one thing I kept on like telling myself during the game is that Wisconsin had a little bit of experience. Obviously, I mean, they went to the national championship last year. Obviously, Kaminsky and Decker aren't there on the squad. Sully, you want to say this is the photo?
It right here for those of you who didn't know what I was talking about.
That is awesome. But yeah, they were missing a lot of talent from the team from the previous year. So, and the guy Nigel Hayes, who was on the team last year, who you expect to make big plays, he shot horribly from 3-point range last night. I mean, he did not have a good game, and
he's had a tough year. I mean, Wisconsin really struggled at the first quarter of the season, first half, and one of those reasons is Nigel Hayes didn't really go off like he did last year. And I think a big reason might be is he was the number 3 guy behind Decker and Kaminsky. All of a sudden, you put the ball in his hands, and he's really not a number 1.
Takes a lot. It puts a lot more pressure on him, and you got a guy like Kaminsky you can feed, and he can go drive to the basket. And then Decker was a great shooter for them in the tournament last year. So I felt like Wisconsin kind of this is a big spark they needed because now Cohen looked great last night. I think he had 21 points last night. I mean, obviously, final 6 points came at crunch time, but that doesn't even matter that he won the game for them. So, I mean, as I wrap that game up right now, I guess we can sort of go into our Sweet 16 preview right now. So I'll just read them from top to bottom, games that we're looking forward to, and we'll take our picks too. All right. So first game, Maryland and Kansas. Give me a little who you feel will advance, and give me some things that might possibly happen. We'll just talk about it a little for a bit. So Maryland, Kansas.
I have Kansas in my national championship. I originally had them losing to Michigan State. I still think they're going to go. Maryland's a very good team. Melo Trimble is a fantastic player, one of the most athletic kids I've ever seen in the college game. And the fact that he's a guard that can shoot so well has really, really impressed me. With that being said, I don't see Kansas losing this. I think they're too powerful. I think they're too tough inside, and I think they win this. I'll say, 62, 68, something around there.
I think that Maryland, like I said in the earlier podcast, they're a little bit inconsistent, but at times they show that they're an older team. I can't take them in the win. I just think Kansas is the best team in the entire country. They've been the most consistent team. They've been the most powerful team. I mean, I don't see how Maryland can really pull this off. If they do, it'd be very, very shocking. Just because I don't think the Big Ten was a very strong conference at all this year. I mean, it proved it. I mean, who won the Big Ten this year? I think it was Michigan State who won it, and they looked embarrassing. But I mean, like Wisconsin doesn't look too bad now, and then you got Indiana, a couple other teams, but still, I don't think it's going to be enough to take care of Kansas. I mean, they're the favorite in a lot of brackets. So yeah, I'm going with Kansas as well. So moving on to the next game, Miami and Villanova. What do you got?
I have 2 rules. We've already been one over them. One of them is that you don't choke just once in a short time span, a.k.a. Baylor. The other is you don't pick the Big East. I think Villanova's going to choke. They're going to lose to Miami.
See, I got 2 teams right here that have also let me down in the tournament in the past. Like Miami, I had them going in the Final Four a couple years ago, and they lost in the Sweet 16 or the round of 32. They lost very early. And Villanova, yeah, you already heard what I had to say about Villanova. I think they're just they're that team that is they're, in the words of Stephen A. Smith, as they talk about with the Cowboys, they're an accident waiting to happen when it comes to the tournament because you want to root for them, and you see that they're the 1 seed and they play so well this year. I got to see it before I believe it. I can't. Villanova on paper should win this game. I'm taking Miami though. I think Miami's going to win.
Yeah, I really have a hard time picking anything from the Big East. I just don't think they play tough enough competition. We've seen it. Providence held their own against North Carolina for the first half. Then Ben Bentel got in some foul trouble. Chris Dunn was in foul trouble early. They just couldn't do it. We saw it last year where Villanova lost early. I just don't trust any team in that conference, I'm sorry to say. Like Xavier lost over and over again. I just don't think they're tough enough.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree with you on that. So that's that game. Next one, Indiana, North Carolina. I'm gonna say something about this. I'm taking Indiana.
That's a bold move. That's a bold move. But give me reasons why.
I'll give you reasons why. I love how for some reason when I watch Indiana, they have this old school play to them that I just really love. And like I was watching, Yogi Everett, I think his name, yeah, Yogi Everett, the point guard. I've loved how he's played in the tournament so far. Their big men are physical. They rebound really, really well. And to me, they've consistently maintained leads and like even pushed like 8-9 point leads over teams in the tournament. I mean, they played Kentucky very, very well. I forgot. I'm looking at who they played in the first round right now. That round of 32. Let me just pull it up real quick. So they played Kentucky the previous round, and then before that they played Chattanooga, where they throttled Chattanooga by 25. Granted, Chattanooga is a 12 seed, but I thought consistently they held a pretty decent Kentucky team. I mean, it's Kentucky. They got good recruits. They got some of the best in the country coming to that team. Regardless of what their seed is, you're playing against good talent, and I never ever. Even if Kentucky was an 8 or 9 seed, you can't count them out because of their program. It brings big name brands and big players to their school. They played very well against them. To me, I also have this little thing where I just like even North Carolina over the last few years. I mean, they've been another team that they won it. I think they won it in 2009 was one of the years that they went all the way against Michigan State. But to me, like I don't know. There's something about this game that is just telling me that I should go with Indiana on this. And now I'm not knocking Carolina. I think obviously Carolina is – if they made it to the national championship, that wouldn't surprise me either. But it's just something about certain games you feel an upset coming. And I feel this one with Indiana. Like I said, if North Carolina advances, good for them. I'm still going to roll with Indiana in an upset.
Here's the thing. I'm not going to call anyone out for picking against Carolina, and here's my reasoning why. Carolina, while probably one of the best teams in the country right now, I picked them to lose in the Final Four. Right now with Michigan State going out, I have to pick them right now to head to the national championship. With that being said, the first 2 games against Florida, Gulf Coast, and Providence have been way too close in the first half.
Another thing too, they did not look too sharp in the first half, and they cannot play that way against Indiana. Indiana is a team that competes the entire game.
Exactly.
They have been the entire season, even in Big Ten play. They played Michigan State tough. They played Maryland tough. They had wins against those schools too. This is a team that can beat some of the best teams in the country, and North Carolina cannot mess around in these games. I mean, in this game against Indiana.
If you get down 10, 12, even honestly 8 points against Indiana, you're going to pay for it, and you probably can't recover. Carolina, they're long. They're probably the longest team in the country. They're real big. They're tough inside. They've got Kennedy Meeks, who I think he's a junior now, but he's really come into his own. Slowly started to emerge. He was pretty quiet the last game against Providence. They also didn't really need him. Bryce Johnson is obviously probably the most exciting player in college basketball right now, if it's not Buddy Hield, or Buddy Hield, sorry. But with that being said, if they don't go off for the first half and go up by a little bit, look, it's Indiana. They're a very good club. They're not Providence. They're not Florida Gulf Coast. They're better. If you're up by 2, 3, 4, 5 points after the first half, you're in good standing to set yourself up for the rest of the game. But don't get down. Do not go into that locker room down at the half. That's all I have to say.
All right, let's move on to the next one. You watch a lot more North Carolina basketball than me, so you're definitely on the Tar Heel insight and everything like that. So, like I said, all right. So you're rolling with North Carolina. That's one thing, right?
I have Carolina. Yep.
Okay, so you're going North Carolina. I'm going Indiana. All right. So next game. This is a very interesting game right here. Wisconsin and Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame, I thought, got very, very lucky, and I expressed my concern about Notre Dame's play. They played well. SF Austin, I didn't think deserved to I thought they deserved to beat Notre Dame. I thought they played better than the entire game. But Notre Dame won. Got to give credit where it is. I didn't agree with some of the calls towards the end of the game. I thought SF Austin got screwed at some points, but what are you going to say? So anyways, we're moving on. So Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I'm looking at this game right now. I just think that Wisconsin they got. I mean, we've had you voiced your concern about the Big East teams. I mean, they played. Wait, Xavier's American, right? Or are they Big East?
No, they're Big East.
They are Big East. Okay, I always get confused because I know they're a Cincinnati school. So I'm gonna go with Notre Dame because I just think that Notre Dame, like, they escaped a scare. They did have a strong finish against SF Austin. Regardless, I mean, it's probably going to fire them up. I think Wisconsin's a little too young and too inexperienced for the majority of the squad. Actually, see, I don't know how to say this because, like, I gave Wisconsin the edge against Xavier because I thought, like, experience and coaching was going to help them out, and, like, guys like Nigel Hayes who are been on those teams and, like, brought them to the final, and they looked very inconsistent in the beginning of the year too. But now they look like they're starting to pour it on, and Nigel Hayes, like I said, the premier guy who started on that squad when they went in the tournament has not looked very well. And if you cannot, like, once Augustine, that guy on Notre Dame, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the country. He's from Massachusetts, isn't he?
Yeah, I think, is he a Roxbury kid?
I think he's from Roxbury. That guy is a very underrated basketball player. He fights for the ball. He hustles. Man, he had one play. I forgot. I think it was in the tournament. Some guy was going in for a layup, and he came out of nowhere from the other side of the court and swatted the ball out. He's tough. He plays his ass off. I like Notre Dame in this game. I'm going to go with Notre Dame just because I think that Wisconsin is going to have to play a very, very consistent ball game. And I just felt that at some points that, like, they almost let it slip against Xavier, but that's another tough one for me. Those two games could go either way. I think I'm going to go with Notre Dame, though.
I don't disagree with you there. I think Notre Dame, Augustine is really underrated. I think they have played fantastic. I'm going to go the opposite way, though. I would love to see the Fighting Irish win this one, but I think
you're going with the Badgers.
I think Wisconsin's hot. I think they're pissed off as an org. I know a lot of guys weren't actually on this team, but I think they're pissed off about losing last year to Duke. I think they thought last year was really their time to win it all, which I think it was too. Kaminsky, Decker, it's tough to replace those guys, but I think they're just going to roll off this momentum. Coming off of a win like that, yes, you're going to be tired, but you have the entire week off. They're just riding high. They're feeling good. They like the fact that they're the underdog, even though it's not by a huge margin. So I'm going to pick the Badgers on this one.
All right, so that wraps up this one. Now, I'm not going to have to ask for your opinion on who we want to win the next game because I know for a fact me and you are going to be big Duck fans on Saturday when Oregon plays Duke. Now, I'm not saying I hate Duke completely. I just can't stand Grayson Allen. I want them to lose, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to try to be biased here. So Duke, obviously, they've had big wins this year. They beat North Carolina. They proved that they can play with the cream of the crop. And if they did win this game, I would not be surprised because, like I said, they played very well against North Carolina. They had spots during the season where they didn't look too hot. They had some slides there where they looked very, very well. I mean, I wouldn't say they were inconsistent, but they did have a little bit of a stretch where we're like, okay, well, is this the Duke team that Coach K is? This isn't the Duke team that we're used to from Coach K. Now they turned it on a little bit towards the end. I mean, they've looked pretty well in the tournament. I mean, they won both their games. Obviously, that's why they're here. But I think Oregon is one of those teams I think hasn't got I just don't think they haven't gotten a lot of whole respect as a basketball school. So I think they're going to play with a lot of intensity. They're playing a top premier basketball program in Duke. They're going to want recognition. They're going to want people to talk about them. They're a 1 seed. I think a lot of that's going to tie into how they play, and I think they're going to come up on top, mostly because I want them to come out on top, and I also want one of the guys in Oregon to punch Grayson Allen in the face.
I would love that. I would love for someone to kick him a little bit or trip him. I'm going to go with Oregon, too. I think they're too big and too powerful on the inside, and we've kind of seen that that's really what dominates these games. I know that Brandon Ingram went off real early, was shooting real well from the outside. I think Grayson Allen had 28 points against Yale, but this is not a Yale team that they're playing. They're much tougher. I think if Duke can pull it off, they're going to need someone besides those two big guys to kind of go off and contribute. I think Marshall Plumlee. Yeah, Marshall Plumlee needs to play well.
Plumlee's another guy you got to look out for on Duke. I mean, he's a great player too, and I think that those guys are going to really have to step up for Duke in this game. I don't think they've really shown anything that we've had to really worry about. I mean, they've consistently won their games in the tournament. I just think that the problem with Duke for me is I just think that I hate bringing it up over and over again, but it's Allen's play that drives me nuts. I just don't like a team that goes and goes out. Like I have no problem with people being physical. If you want to throw elbows, you want to cuss, you want to like trash talk and get in people's faces and stuff and scream. I love that crap. Like that's awesome. Like I love guys who are intense about the game. What he's doing is not intense. He's putting his foot out in front of players who aren't. He's not even like guarding, and he's tripping people. And any Duke fan that tries to argue with me and say he's not, you're a freaking moron. You're a moron. If you were going to watch these videos of this idiot, this clown out there, putting his foot out in front of people and tripping them and trying to justify that this is like physical basketball, you are a piece of shit. Grayson Allen, him doing this stuff is not sportsmanship. It's not. And you know what? People want to criticize and be like, oh, well, sportsmanship, like, it's like no one really has it. Like, no one has to be classy and all that. You're right. No one has to be classy. But tripping people, that's something I do that someone would do on a 7-year-old on a freaking playground. Get out of here with that crap. I don't want to hear any of that.
Last year after the national championship, I tried starting the trend. Grayson Allen listens to Nickelback. I just kept tweeting hashtag Grayson Allen.
But I liked Allen last year at the national championship because he had a fantastic game. He was part of the reason why they won it. I mean, what's his name? Looked terrible in the first half of that game. Okafor, he had a horrible first half. Wisconsin probably should have won that game, but Allen played his ass off, and the reason why they were in it towards the end and evidently came up on top was because of his play. But this tripping nonsense has to go.
I want to punch him right in the nose. I never
play that way. You are a freaking Duke basketball player. Cut it out. Stop it.
I'm gonna go with Oregon on this one. I think my bias.
Oregon. I'm going with Oregon. I hope Oregon wins. I'm rooting for Oregon. Anyways, we're moving on. Enough of Grayson now. I don't want to talk about him anymore. Anyway, so all right. So we got Texas A&M, and Oklahoma coming up. What do you got in that game?
I don't know, man. I keep picking against Oklahoma, and they keep proving me wrong.
That's going to be a great game.
That's going to be, I think, the best game of this next round. I will go with, and I'm making this up off the top of my head. I'm gonna pick Oklahoma. I'll pick Oklahoma in this one, and here's why. I don't think they've been physical, or let me rephrase that. I didn't think they were physical coming into the tournament. I thought they were a great shooting team, but great shooting teams go cold in big spurts, and when you go cold in big spurts, and that's all you can do, and you can't pound the ball inside, you regret it a lot, and you don't do well, and you lose games that way. They proved to me last game that they can drive to the hoop, they can get to the rim, and that's going to be the difference in this one against the Texas A&M team, who we know can lock down on defense because they did it against UNI in that last game. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma, but they've got to play a complete game.
So Texas A&M proved a lot to me in this game against Northern Iowa. I know, like, obviously it's NIU, but NIU, like I said, has been a consistent team throughout the tournament the last couple of years. So they looked great towards the end of the game. Oklahoma is a very, very physical team. This is a toss-up, so this is what I'm going to do. I have a coin right here, and heads if it's Oklahoma and tails if it's A&M. Tails, I'm going with Texas A&M. Wait, did I say – was it opposite?
No, I think you're right. I think you're good.
Did I get A&M? So if it was whatever landed on tails, that's what I picked. So I'm going 50-50 on that. God, okay. I can't believe it. All I had to do was think for 3 seconds, and then I would have remembered who it was. It was two teams, and I couldn't even remember what I picked for tails.
Yeah, but don't lie. You were focusing on not dropping the coin when you flipped it.
What's up?
You were focusing on not dropping the coin as you flipped it.
Yeah, I know. That would have been embarrassing too. All right, so we have two more matchups we're going to talk about. So Iowa State and Virginia. All right, what do you got in that game?
I don't know. I keep thinking that UVA is going to lose, but here they are. I'll go with Iowa State. I'm going to be right eventually.
Oh, man, this is a tough one. Like I said, Virginia and Iowa State, two teams that have completely let me down in the tournament over the last few years as well. I had Virginia and Iowa State, I think, recently in some of my brackets over the years, going to Final Fours or national championships, and them just completely just like dropping a complete bombshell on my bracket for that. So, oh, boy, I don't know how to take in this game. I'm going to go Virginia.
Okay.
I think Virginia they were playing with a lot of anger and intensity. They think they're in that Villanova category where they lose early. So I think they're gonna play their ass off and have a really good game. So we'll go with them on that. All right, final game. This is a very weird matchup. 11 seed versus 10 seed, Gonzaga and Syracuse. Syracuse throttled Mid-Tennessee State, who beat Michigan State, and Gonzaga who has been absolutely massacring everybody in the tournament so far. They're playing with a lot of anger. Who do you got in this game, Sully?
You have to pick Gonzaga. I think there's no way you can pick against this team. Syracuse, good for you. You beat up on a team who, in reality, really shouldn't have been there. The team they played in the opening round choked. They didn't take them seriously enough, and they took full advantage. Good for you, Middle Tennessee. But then they throttled them. They beat them by, what, 20, 18? It wasn't a close game. I think you got to go with Gonzaga. They're very hot right now. I don't really know much about this team, to be perfectly honest, but I do know that they've won huge against quality opponents, and they're the underdog every single time.
Everything you just say, I completely agree with. I didn't really get a lot of chance to watch Gonzaga, though I did watch a few Cuse games this year, and Syracuse is very inconsistent as well. Gonzaga is playing very, very hot right now. They feel like they can beat anybody. I think they're going to beat Syracuse. I mean, I don't think Syracuse is like that team like, oh, it's a Cuse team. Like, it's not the same Syracuse team from the past. This isn't a Boeheim team that, like, you should be scared of at the boards or anything like that. They don't have, like, some of their premier, like, players. I think Gonzaga is going to get the win. So those are our predictions for the Sweet 16. Those are all be going on Saturday and Sunday. First game starts at 12 on Saturday. I think actually, no, that's – yeah, it's first thing on Saturday at 12. I don't know what team is playing, but that's when it's going to start. So, all right, so that's our show for today. Any final thoughts?
Just that I found out I will be at the Albany sectional of the Hockey East first round of the tournament. I got a press pass. I'm pretty excited about that. Also, I got to correct myself. Apparently, and I didn't even notice, I had a slip of the tongue, and I said that Harvard was in the Hockey East. They're not. They're at ECAC. I know that. Shout out to my buddy J-Lo for pointing that out. I'm an idiot. My bad. That was very So thank you for pointing that out. That's all I got for today.
Yeah, my final thought is I have a bittersweet moment tomorrow where I go down to Barnes & Nobles and I get fitted for my cap and gown, and I got to go pick out my my graduation template thing to put my degree in when I receive that in May. So a lot of feels tomorrow at the bookstores. So the journey at Ohio State is coming to an end.
You do that kind of early. I went to do that. Well, first of all,
it was late because I got that sent. My mom sent it to me through a text the other day. I was like, I didn't even get that in the mail. But then Brian got it here, and I was like, oh, I guess it's hooked out of my mail in Massachusetts. So thank God she sent it to me.
They told me it was going to be like $18, I think, for undergrads, and I showed up, and I don't know whether it was something I said or what, but the guy thought I was a graduate student. And I showed up with a $20 bill, and he said, he was like, all right, we need $60. And I was like, oh, my God, okay, I don't have that on me. I left, went to an ATM, withdrew more money, went back. They said, all right, undergrad or graduate? I said, undergrad. They said, all right, $18, please. I was like, all right, well, I'm glad I didn't have to spend $60 on a cap and gown that I'm never going to wear again.
Yeah, college sucks, dude. It's ridiculous, all this freaking crap that you have to go through and all that. Like, the money stuff, like $18 is just ridiculous. But, yeah, all right.
Expensive, well, yeah.
That's it for our show today. We'll probably be doing another one in the next couple of days or so just to make up for all the lost time, just so you know that we're still doing this. We're still alive and we're still relevant. You can follow us on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. Like I said, we put our times in. I'm going to edit through all the game matchups just in case you don't want to hear me and Sully blab for the next 35 to 40 minutes. So we got that. So as always, from Columbus, I'm Zach with Sully.
From Lee, Massachusetts. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right, take it easy. Enjoy your Tuesday and the rest of your week.